Muchachos y muchachas. Okay, so the border has been a very, very hot topic in the recent couple years. It's not that it hasn't been a problem all this entire time, because it definitely has, but there was an influx and an uptick ever since Biden took office, but especially there has been a lot more concerns over the children, as there have been various context clues and reports that there's just something not right about what's going on at the border, including the processing of these children. Now, as I have been to the border and witnessed all of this for myself with my own two eyes, I wanted to add some commentary to the testimony that was made today by 𝘸𝘠𝘠𝘬𝘮𝘢, an HHS whistleblower. If you guys don't know already, the HHS is actually a parenting organization over the ORR, or rather, it's over the ORR. And the ORR is supposed to be the process for processing children and finding the sponsors, things like that. The Office of Refugee Resettlement. Now, 𝘸𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘬𝘮𝘢 details her testimony, in which she mentioned something very troubling, that there is possibly, more likely, a very sophisticated network within our own government. So our tax-funded, tax-paying governmental departments are actually possibly facilitating this nefarious scheme. I want to definitely go through all of this and give you guys my commentary, my experience, my feedback to this, once again, as I have seen this for myself and had my own questions. With that being said, hold on to your butts, secure your wigs, stay right there. We're going to go through it. Really quick, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, Keto with Natalie. As you may or may not know, about 52% of Americans are trying to manage their weight. They are trying different diets, things like this. Well, keto is one of the most effective diets, and this is a product that can help you within that journey. This keto powder is designed to help with healthy weight management, elevate your energy, increase mental focus, and improve your overall wellness. You guys can get it at ketowithnatalie.com. Okay, so let's take a look at this whistleblower testimony. This is 𝘸𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠, and she testified in front of Congress today. Let's take a look at some of the things she's going to say. I'm going to stop this sporadically because there are some things that I've actually researched. I've actually been boots on the ground at the border to see it for myself. So I definitely want to give you guys my honest input here. Okay, let's go ahead and start.
Good afternoon, Chairman McClintock, Ranking Member Jayapal, and distinguished members of the committee. It is an honor to be here. I thank you for the invitation to share my testimony. My goal is to inspire action to safeguard the lives of migrant children, including the staggering 85,000 that are missing. 85,000 migrant children that are missing. There was a clue that this was going to happen back in 2021. It was in the fall time where Axios, the news publication, actually by FOIA request got this information from the HHS, where the HHS had to admit that they could not contact, I believe it was like 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 children that they processed through, the CBP. So, that was a staggering and alarming number in it as itself back in 2021. So if 1 out of 3 children, so that's about what, like that's a lot, couldn't be contacted, as in the HHS would perform wellness checks. I think they're called wellness checks, or it's called something else. But nonetheless, they would call the intended child, and either the sponsor would not pick up the phone, or the sponsor would say, "Oh, sorry, don't know where the kid is," or can't talk to the kid, whatever. You wouldn't think that that's alarming, but that's what was happening. Not only that, the HHS could not even they couldn't even, there were so many children, they couldn't even reach all of them, meaning they didn't even dial all the numbers to the children to perform that check. That's how staggering these numbers are. So this resulting number, 85,000, which I believe is just a lowball number, to be honest with you. I think it's way more children that are missing in the United States right now. There was a context clue to that back in 2021.
Today, children will work overnight shifts at slaughterhouses, factories, restaurants to pay their debts to smugglers and traffickers. Today,
so just to give you guys a little educational piece, this is a scheme that is as old as time, and this type of scheme happens all over the world, where smugglers, these types of people, these nefarious people. What will happen, I'm just going to be very brief about this so we can continue the testimony. What will happen is the smuggler, the coyote, will tell the migrant or the parent, hey, we'll smuggle you over to the United States. It's going to cost you, I'm just going to throw a figure out there. It'll cost you $2,000. Go ahead and pay us, and we'll, and they'll sell it like a vacation package. We'll transport you. You'll have the bus, and, we'll even pay for your river ride, all these things, right? And so the migrant will pay this dollar amount, or this peso amount, whatever it is, whatever Latin American country they're coming from. And what will happen is the coyote, the smuggler, the trafficker, will then turn a scheme and say, oh, that was $2,000, but now that you're in the United States, that number has converted into US dollars. So now you owe us 2,000 or 6,000 more, right? They'll just add a figure on top of that. And so the migrant, sometimes they'll give everything that they have, right? That $2,000, $4,000 would have been their life savings or everything that they had at that moment. And so in order to pay off that debt, that fictional manufactured debt that the coyote made up for them, then they will become enslaved to what's called debt bondage. That's why, these traffickers, these smugglers will say, okay, well, work your debt off. And they'll do this to children as well, where children will become child laborers, in these types of brothels. Yeah, it's dark. It's really dark. But yeah, that's what happens. And this has been going on for a long time. That's how they become into debt bondage.
Children will be sold for sex. Today, children will call a hotline to report they are being abused, neglected, and trafficked. And we don't know if they're going to get the help they need.
And that's important, okay? Keep note of that, the hotline, okay? What hotline are they calling? What hotline are they calling? And why don't we ever see this type of data being given out? Okay, if they're calling this hotline, why isn't this national hotline? From what I believe that she's talking about the national hotline that we see everywhere. Why don't we see that organization putting out this data and information for everybody? In fact, they are known for their data. Why are they not working with the government to find and track these children, right? This is an important piece that I think a lot of people are going to glaze over. But just keep that in the back of your head, okay?
For nearly a decade, unaccompanied children have been suffering in the shadows. And I have to confess, I knew nothing about their suffering until 2021, when I volunteered to help the Biden administration with the crisis at the southern border. As part of Operation Artemis, I was deployed to the Pomona Fairplex Emergency Intake Site in California to help HHS, Office of Refugee Resettlement, reunite children with sponsors in the United States. I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with recruiting in home country, smuggling to the U.S. border, and ends when ORR delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors
Okay, so I wanted to comment on this. So she mentioned the ORR, which I mentioned at the very beginning of this video. The ORR is a child department of the HHS. Okay, so the Health and Human Services Department owns the ORR, the Office of Refugee Resettlement. They are the people or the department that processes the migrants, the children. And so they should have this elaborate process where, the children are being vetted with their sponsors. They're calling the sponsors, and they're going back and forth. They're very analytical about it. But what's going on is and really think about it. I mean, it's a very simple math here. If you have an influx of children at the border who are just flooding in, right? And by the way, I don't blame the children. If you have ever looked these children in the eyes at the border, you cannot blame the child. They are being deceived. The parents are being deceived. They're being sent. The parents think that they're safe. All these things there are lies that are being fed to these children. So, when these children are being matched up by sponsors, they're being deceived because now it's like when you look at the HHS documentation, you will see that they recently, or I don't know if they've changed it or covered it up, but when we were looking into it last year, you saw that they had in their documentation that they say there are some times where we look for that history, right? That criminal history, that SEX criminal history. We do background checks on sometimes. So if it was in their documentation as sometimes, what do you think is really going on now? And also, the types of sponsors, it is even listed in their documentation that the types of sponsors that they find for them are a range. It's basically from family, parents, family, friends, and then people who are not family friends. So basically anybody can become a sponsor, okay? These have been things that I have talked about before. So just FYI, the HHS is very vague about how they match up the sponsors, but also they've been very admissive to how they conduct their work in documentation as well.
Sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking. Now, whether it's intentional or not, it could be argued that the United States government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation that is run by bad actors seeking to profit off of the lives of children. As for me, my interest is the safety of the children. I do not view this as a political issue. I view this as a humanitarian issue.
And this is truly going to bring everybody together. You realize that, right? Like the people who are watching my video right now, I bet are a diverse crowd, right? You probably have different views. You probably don't agree with me on certain things, but this truly is it, and it as it should be the grand basis of everybody coming together and saying, hey, this is wrong, right? This is wrong, exploiting children, especially those that don't speak our language, which she is going to mention in her testimony, and who are being ripped, literally being ripped from their families, right? To be exploited for labor, for sick things, okay? Things that we don't even see, things that we can't even fathom, okay? These kids are being exploited. And truly, this is not a political issue. This is a humanitarian issue. This is a human rights issue, okay? I hope that we can all be, I know a lot of you are not my faith, and a lot of you are, right? I am a Christian. I am a devout Christian. And I always say I am a Christian before I am, before any political affiliation, okay? And a lot of people, I am going on a little bit of a tangent, but I have to say this. A lot of people who are part of the conservative side as well, they have this really radical view that you can't help migrants, you can't help the children because they come from a different country. They're coming as an influx, and I get that. But at the same time, this, like I said, this is a humanitarian basis issue. When it comes to children, there is no political issue. Not at all. Okay. You need to look at this from a different lens, not from a nationalistic lens when it comes to this particular problem. You have to think about all the nuances of them being deceived, them being tricked, being told these things. And these are, once again, children. So be that what it will be.
I assure you, my motives are the highest and best. I want the children protected. So I want to tell you some of what I witnessed personally at the Pomona Fairplex. I saw vulnerable indigenous children from Guatemala who speak Mayan dialects and cannot speak Spanish. That means they cannot ask for help in English. They cannot ask for help in Spanish. They become captives of their sponsors.
So this particular little example is so damning, and the reason being is because there has to be, if these children who can't even speak, they're not speaking Spanish, as she said, so they have a Mayan dialect. They can't even ask for help. They can't even, and that's not a common dialect, right? In Texas, in Florida, yes, Spanish might be like kind of like a maybe a 30-70 or even a 40-60 type of ratio, right? 60% English. A lot of people speak Spanish in Texas, vice versa in Florida, right? We're border states. So, we, at least there are people out in the United States who are American citizens, but are bilingual, such as myself, who speak Spanish. But this is a very specific dialect in which these children who have Mayan dialects can't even ask for help. Now, who would advertise to these children? Who would go in and even tell these children about the opportunity to come over here? Or sell it as an opportunity to come over here, right? We have to think about these marketing perspectives. Who is out there marketing these things out to these children? Because if they can't even speak Spanish, English, they have a Mayan dialect, you better believe that there is somebody who is marketing to them in a Mayan dialect. I want you guys to keep that in mind as well as we transpire through some of this content.
I have sat with case managers as they've cried to tell me the horror of what has happened to children as they make the journey to this country. I saw apartment buildings where 20, 30, and 40 unaccompanied minors have been released. I saw sponsors trying to simultaneously sponsor children from multiple ORR sites at one time. I saw sponsors using multiple addresses to obtain sponsorships of children. And I saw numerous cases of children in debt bondage, and the child knew they had to stay with the sponsor until the debt was paid. Realizing that we were not offering the children the American dream, but instead putting them in modern-day slavery with wicked overlords, was a terrible revelation. A terrible revelation. These children are a captive victim population with no access to law enforcement or knowledge of their rights. They are extorted, abused, neglected, and that is why I blew the whistle in 2021. I witnessed firsthand the horrors of child trafficking and exploitation. My life will never be the same after what I saw, but I have hope because I'm counting on you. It's my hope that you'll take action to end this crisis, to safeguard the lives of.
You can never say that you never knew. You can never say ever again that you don't know. Okay? This is happening. 100% this is happening. You can try to make lesser of it. You can try to, soften the blows of this information, but you can never, ever, ever, ever say that you did not know. Okay, this is for everybody. This is an everybody problem. This is not just a whistleblower. This is not just Congress. This is not just a politician. This is not just this is an everybody problem. Okay? If you don't think that this will transpire to your front door, you better think again. This is an everybody problem.
Most of these vulnerable children. People have asked me, what can be done? What would you suggest? Well, first, I think HHS's #1 priority is oversight. They must commit to oversight, transparency, and accountability. If I could wave a magic wand, this, I believe, could be quickly solved by experts in the IG community. There is a Pandemic Analytics Center of Excellence, or the PACE as we call it. I believe if data analysts at the PACE could look at the data, children could be rescued, criminals could be prosecuted if the PACE had access to this data.
That's the thing. That's the thing. The data. The data. Guys, do you understand that this information, I know what data system they use too. I know what data system they're using as well. They could very well, I mean, think about it. The database system where they are keeping the demographics of these children and logging them where they entered, where they're going. These things can be analyzed 100%. They don't want it to be analyzed.
It shows where the children are and who has them. I think also we need to change the culture of speed over safety. Speed is the wrong performance measure when dealing with children. Mm-hmm. We need to revamp the vetting process of sponsors and have case managers who have investigative backgrounds, data analytics backgrounds, some certified fraud examiners. And I think we need to reimagine a system where the sponsor is the accountable party. Sponsors should be required to report to ORR. And lastly, stop retaliating against whistleblowers. Stop retaliating against the people who are trying to tell the truth
More
to
will
save
come forward.
the children.
More will come forward.
As it is written, a wise man listens to advice while a fool continues in his folly, and HHS needs to be wise to care for these children.
Thank you very much.
I mean, such a harrowing, such a daunting testimony. Once again, this happened today. This was a congressional testimony. And yeah, guys, I mean, this is some really daunting stuff. I think I exhausted my commentary. I don't want to make this video much longer than it already is. Please let me know what your thoughts and comments are in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much. This is a very mentally, spiritually taxing subject. I really hope that one day we can all pull together, regardless of our political views, regardless of anything that we hold, as part of our, I guess, identification system, as part of our belief system, to pull through for the kids and the most vulnerable in our society. So with that being said, yeah, man, this is one of, I said it in a tweet, this is one of the most harmful to children administration, racist administration. A lot of people won't say it. But they are using Latino children. They view Latino children as lesser. They view their lives as lesser, and they will use them as commodities and for profit. And that enrages me. That really enrages me that they think so lowly of Latino children, of Latinos in general. But Latino children as commodities, this is sick. And I'm honestly grossed out. I am enraged. And believe me, it puts a fire in my belly to do more. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for your support. Please stay tuned because, yeah, believe this is not the last that we're going to talk about this. Bye-bye.